Meet George Allen Riekers, a conservative Baptist minister, co-founder of the vehemently anti-gay group, the Family Research Council, and one of the nation's loudest proponents of the idea that homosexuality can be cured. Here's George Riekers, photographed by the Miami New Times at Miami's airport, returning from a 10-day European vacation with a much younger, quite hunky companion, who he met and hired through the website rentboy.com. Rentboy, in case you're unfamiliar with the term, is not like, you know, man with a van will help with moving, or get tickets to rent the Broadway show. It's Rent Boy, as in when you log on, you have to click through to acknowledge you're okay with sexually explicit material, and then you essentially agree to pay for hunky male companionship. When the story broke in the Miami New Times, Mr. Riekers told the paper that he had hired this young man in question because, quote, "I had surgery and I can't lift luggage," which doesn't explain why in this New Times photo. As you can see, it is Mr. Riekers who is the one wrangling the cart, not his young consort. Mr. Riekers also told the paper that he used the trip to explain that the Christian faith is based in love and to show the rent boy how he too could be saved. Later, the young man who Mr. Riekers brought to Europe told the paper that he had spent part of each day on that trip giving Mr. Riekers massages. Very, very specific massages. You can look up the descriptions of them online yourself. There's no need to get into that here. I realize this story has been everywhere this week. There are a lot of things that are funny about it, and it is easy to have schadenfreude about a guy this ostentatiously hypocritical. I would like to add something, though, to our understanding of what's going on here after a week of coverage of this story. People being gay, people being closeted, people hiring sex workers, in themselves, those things are neither all that funny nor all that newsworthy. But when people have built their careers, their professions, on professions of their own sexual moral rectitude, David Vitter, John Ensign, when people have built their careers on trying to make life miserable and dangerous for gay people, while they themselves are secretly gay, Larry Craig, George Riekers, then congratulations, you've made the news. It's no longer just your private business. What hasn't been appreciated about the George Riekers rent boy case is just how miserable he has tried to make life for other gay people in this country, and the fact that he's still doing it. So here's George Riekers getting caught at the Miami airport on April 13th, okay? That's him in the blue shirt in the foreground. It's a picture he didn't want you to see. The George Riekers he does want you to see shows up here exactly 2 weeks earlier in this letter, dated March 31st. This letter was reportedly sent to every school superintendent in America, all 14,800 of them. The letter advises school districts, quote, "In dealing with adolescents experiencing same-sex attraction, it's essential to understand there is no scientific evidence that an individual is born gay or transgender. It is also critical to understand that these conditions can respond well to therapy." Right? If you have the gay, don't worry, it can be cured. Although doing so sometimes leaves a lingering backache? Maybe? The "Hey Superintendent, any gay kids in your school district need to be told they can be cured" letter is from none other than George Riekers. See, he's listed here on the letter as a member of the Pediatric Psychosocial Development Committee of this group, the American College of Pediatricians. That sounds official, it sounds serious, right? It's not. They are just one of these wacky far-right cure the gays groups. They're hoping that you will mistake them. They are the American College of Pediatricians. They're hoping you'll mistake them for the real doctors group, the American Academy of Pediatrics. That's the real group. Again, the Cure the Gays letter from George Riekers' group goes out on March 31st to every school district in the country. George Riekers then shows up at Miami's airport 2 weeks later with the hot young guy he hired off of rentboy.com, having just returned from a 10-day rent boy vacation. It's as though he and his colleagues put the letter in the mail, deadline met, and then left for 2 weeks of much-needed vacation. And massages. The reason George Riekers' pitiful, closeted, hypocritical life news is actual news is because he's quite actively engaged in trying to change this country to make it a more difficult place to be gay, particularly a more difficult place to be a young gay person, while he is simultaneously hiring at least one young gay person to not carry his baggage. In 2004, George Riekers was paid tens of thousands of dollars to testify as an expert witness for the state of Arkansas, supporting that state's ban on gay parents caring for foster kids. In 2008, George Rekers was again paid tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars to be an anti-gay expert witness, this time by the state of Florida, to defend Florida's ban on gay parents adopting. Florida is fighting for that ban with the help of esteemed experts like George Rekers. A court ruling on the constitutionality of that law is expected any day now. Here's the basic idea about cases like this. And Larry Craig, and Ted Haggard, and John Ensign, and David Vitter, and. The miserable denial and lying in your own sex lives is your own miserable, in denial, lying business. Unless you make it the whole country's business by crusading against the thing that is true about yourself that you hate so much. Being gay cannot be cured. Being a contemptible, pathetic hypocrite can be cured. Come out wherever you are.
Anderson Cooper, AC 360, CNN weeknights 10 Eastern.
He calls himself Lucien. He's a paid male escort who says he only advertises his services on the website rentboy.com, where visitors can select among hundreds of male escorts who advertise in suggestive and revealing poses. That website is where Lucien says he was first contacted by George Rekers, a professor and Baptist minister who has weighed in on almost every piece of anti-gay legislation around the country. What's not in dispute is that Rekers and Lucien just returned from a 2-week European vacation, and that Lucien was hired to help with the bags. This photo was snapped at Miami International Airport. But Lucien also says for the trip to Madrid and London, he was to give Rekers what Lucien called sexual massages every day.
He basically got excited. That was the whole case.
So he wanted you to touch him?
Well, yeah.
Did you have sex with him on the trip?
No.
Did he
No
ask
sex.
to?
Not at all.
Lucien showed me the contract he signed with Rekers. For $75 a day, it says he must carry the bags, provide a massage for at least 1 hour every day of the trip in their shared room, plus spend at least 8 hours a day with him, including 2 meals. On Rekers' website, a very different account of how he met Lucien, by interviewing different people who might be able to help, and did not even find out about his travel assistant's internet advertisements offering prostitution activity until after the trip was in progress. There was nothing inappropriate with this relationship, and he emphasized he was not involved in any illegal or sexual behavior with his travel assistant. Rekers is a board member for NARTH, the National Association for Research and Therapy of Homosexuality, a group that says it helps people with, quote, unwanted homosexual attractions. He's also the co-founder of the Family Research Council, which promotes the traditional family unit. And in 2008, here in Florida, George Rekers served as an expert witness in a case to uphold the law banning gays and lesbians from adopting. In his writings, he called gays a, quote, deviant segment of society. The state of Florida paid him about $120,000 for his testimony. Attorney General Bill McCollum's office told us Rekers was recommended after an exhaustive search and because he had, quote, exceptional credentials. Wayne Besson is with Truth Wins Out, a group that exposes what it sees as hypocrisy in the anti-gay movement.
He has helped create anti-gay attitudes and justify discrimination across the country. It seems Rekers doesn't think gay people should raise boys, they think he should rent boys. So I think he's quite the hypocrite there.
Lucien says Rekers knew he was gay before the trip because he had told him about his boyfriends.
Does he still deny to you that he's gay?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I actually asked him over the phone, you know, do you think you're gay? And he just said no.
Lucien told me Rekers had asked him not to share his story with the media.
He just didn't want me to mention the massage aspect, you know. That's what it really was.
And he asked you not to?
Yeah, he had asked me not to.
In response to the publicity, NARTH, where Rekers is a board member, released this statement saying it takes seriously the accusations that have been made. In response to an email from CNN, Rekers wrote, I am retaining the services of a defamation attorney in this matter because the fact is I am not gay and never have been. Lucien, meanwhile, says he feels sorry for Rekers. He enjoyed their European vacation together and would like to be his friend. He wants him to stop making anti-gay statements. Randy Kay, CNN, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
One final note, the Family Research Council, which George Rekers helped found, released a statement today distancing themselves from him. In fact, they say they had to check their historical records to verify that he was, in fact, a member of the original board. And they went on to say, in part, FRC has had no contact with Dr. Rakers or knowledge of his activities in over a decade. So FRC can provide no further insight into these allegations. And they added, while we are extremely disappointed when any Christian leader engages in the very activities that they preach against, it is not surprising. The scriptures clearly teach the fallen nature of all people. We each have a choice to act upon that nature or accept the forgiveness offered by the grace through faith in Jesus Christ.